imagine a place. Pause. Not a room, not a building, but a space that goes on forever, in every direction. Imagine a place. Not a room, not a building, but a space that goes on forever, in every direction you can think of, and even in a few you can't. This is the library of everything. There are no walls, no ceiling, and no floor, just shelves. Shelves made of a dark, smooth wood that doesn't seem to have a grain, stretching up, down, left and right, farther than your eyes could ever see. They fade into a soft, gray mist in the distance, but you know with a deep certainty that they don't actually end. They just keep going. On these shelves are books. An impossible number of books. Think of the biggest number you can. A truly silly number. And then imagine that number of books. Now realize that's just the number of books on the single shelf right in front of you. Every book is bound in simple black leather, with no title on the spine, no author, no markings of any kind. They are all identical on the outside, perfect and anonymous. Each one feels cool and solid in your hand. If you were to pick one up, you'd find it has a certain weight, a sense of importance. Now what's inside these books? Everything. Absolutely everything. One book might contain a perfect, word-for-word transcript of every conversation you had last Tuesday. Another might hold the complete genetic code of a blue whale. A third could contain the exact chemical formula for the scent of rain on dry earth. Most of them, however, contain pure nonsense. Just random strings of letters and numbers, gibberish from cover to cover. Think of it like this, if you can imagine it. It's written down in one of these books. The history of a star that died 1 billion years ago? It's in there. A story about a talking squirrel who becomes a pirate? That's in there too. A book containing only the letter A repeated 10 million times? Yes, that one exists as well. This library is the ultimate collection of all possibilities. It's not organized. There's no card catalog, no Dewey Decimal System, no friendly librarian to point you in the right direction. It's the physical embodiment of a haystack the size of a galaxy, and somewhere within this endless, unorganized, silent expanse is a single specific item you're looking for. It's not even a whole book, it's just a single page. This one specific page contains a secret, a solution to a problem you desperately need to solve. It could be anything. A password, a cure, a map. Let's call it the lost page. You know what the page says. You would recognize it instantly if you saw it. The problem isn't identifying it. The problem is finding it. It's tucked away inside one of these trillions upon trillions of identical black books. So how would you go about finding it? The classical approach, the way you or I would have to do it, is painfully simple and brutally slow. You'd float over to the nearest shelf, pull down the first book, open it, and flip through every single page. Does it have the lost page? No. You close the book, put it back, and move to the next one. You open it, you check, you close it, you put it back, then the next book, and the next, and the next. You could spend your entire life doing this. You could spend 1 million lifetimes doing this, and you might only clear a single aisle. The sheer scale of the library makes this task not just difficult, but fundamentally impossible in any reasonable amount of time. Each book is a guess, and each guess takes time. You are checking things one by one, in a straight line. This is a linear search. It's straightforward, logical, and in a library of this size, utterly hopeless. You feel a sense of cosmic despair just thinking about it. The silence of the library presses in, the endless rows of black books mocking your effort before you even begin. You are one person able to be in one place at a time, looking at one page at a time. The odds are so profoundly stacked against you that they might as well be infinite. This is the problem. A search space so vast that checking every option individually isn't a viable strategy. You need a different way of thinking. You need a different kind of magic.
You're standing there in the quiet gray nothingness between the shelves of the endless library. The weight of the impossible task settles on you. One book at a time, one page at a time, a process that would outlast the stars. It's a fool's errand. You take a breath, the air still and cool, and you decide to stop thinking like a person, who can only be in one place. You decide to stop playing by the old rules. What if you didn't have to choose one book? What if you could just look at them all? You close your eyes, not in defeat, but in focus. You let go of the idea of your physical self, that solid body standing in one specific spot. Instead, you think about your goal, the lost page, and you let that desire spread out. You imagine your own awareness, your consciousness, thinning out, becoming like a fog that drifts from your starting point and begins to creep down the infinite aisles. It flows like water, splitting and branching, sending a tiny tendril of itself toward every single book on every single shelf.
Then a strange thing happens. It starts as a faint tingling, a feeling like static electricity on your skin, but it's happening everywhere at once. You open your eyes, but you're not just looking out from one spot anymore. Your perspective is fractured, duplicated, spread across the entire library. You are standing in front of every book, simultaneously. A translucent, ghostly version of you stands before each black leather volume. You can see through your own hands, as you, in countless parallel instances, reach out. Every one of these spectral copies of you performs the exact same action at the exact same moment. They all lift the cover of their assigned book. They all begin to scan the pages. It's not reading, not in the way you're used to. It's an act of pure simultaneous observation. You aren't processing the words of one book. You are experiencing the existence of all of them. What does this feel like? It's not a clear picture. It's an overwhelming hum. Imagine hearing every sound in a city at once, not as a collection of individual noises, but as a single, complex, deafening chord. That's what this is like for your mind. You are absorbing the contents of all the books at the same time. The perfect transcripts of conversations, the genetic codes, the pirate squirrel stories, and most of all, the endless pages of absolute gibberish. It's a tidal wave of information, a blizzard of data. The contents of the entire library are now, in a way, inside your head. You are in a state of total possibility, holding all potential answers in a delicate, undefined balance. This is an incredible power. You've gone from being a single person, looking for a needle in a galactic haystack, to covering the entire haystack at once. In a single instant, you have checked every book. You haven't had to travel down the aisles. You haven't had to put one book back to get another. You are everywhere, looking at everything. This is what it means to be in a superposition. You are not in position 1, or position 2, or position 3. You are in all of them at the same time. You are a wave of potential, spread evenly across all the books in the library. But this new state brings a new kind of problem. The information is too much. The lost page you're looking for is being observed by one of your ghostly selves. That specific copy of you is looking right at it. But its voice is just one among trillions upon trillions. It's a single perfect note lost in an infinite orchestra, playing every note imaginable. You have touched the answer, but you can't feel it. You are looking at the solution, but you can't see it. You've managed to open every book at once, but the sheer noise of it all means you still don't know which one holds the page you need. You are in a state of perfect balance, every book given equal weight, every possibility equally present in your mind. To find the lost page, you now need a new trick. You need a way to make that one single correct copy of you, the one looking at the right answer, stand out from all the others. You need a way to tell the library to show you where the secret is hidden. You need a sign, you need an oracle.
You are everywhere at once.
A ghost in the machine of the cosmos, a being of pure potential spread thinly across an infinite number of identical books. You are holding all the answers, but you can't tell them apart. The sheer volume of information is a form of white noise, a constant featureless hum that drowns out the one specific melody you need to hear. The power to be everywhere is useless if you can't focus on somewhere. To move forward, you need more than just presence. You need a way to ask a question. So, you ask one. Not with your voice, you don't have one in this state, but with your mind. You focus on the one thing you know for certain, the exact content of the lost page. You picture the words, the symbols, the layout. You hold this perfect image in your consciousness, a clear, sharp thought amidst the roaring static of the library's data. Then you broadcast this thought. You push it out from the core of your being, sending it as a silent, instantaneous query to every single one of your ghostly copies. This query is the oracle. It's not a creature or a guide. It's a question, a test. The question is simple. Are you looking at this? This question travels to the ghost you reading a book of gibberish in aisle 900,000. It travels to the ghost you reading the history of a forgotten star in a distant corner of the library. It travels to every single one of your instances, all at the same time.
For almost every single copy of you, the question meets with a mismatch. The ghost to you scanning a page of random numbers compares the oracle's query, the image of the lost page, to what it's seeing. They don't match. The query passes through it without effect, like a ghost walking through a wall. Nothing happens. This is the case for trillions upon trillions of yourselves. The question arrives, it is checked, it does not match, and it fades away. The hum of the library continues, unchanged. The ghostly selves continue their silent, simultaneous reading as if nothing happened.
But in one place, and one place only, something different occurs. There is one specific, unique instance of you that is standing before the correct book, looking at the genuine lost page. At the exact moment you broadcast your query, this ghost self is observing the very pattern you are thinking of. The question, "Are you looking at this?" arrives, and for this one self, the answer is a resounding, instantaneous yes. The pattern of the query and the pattern on the page are a perfect match. They resonate. This resonance doesn't cause an explosion or a flash of light. The library is far too subtle for that. Instead, the match triggers a quiet, profound transformation within that single ghostly copy. It's a secret event, a whisper in the quantum dark. The very nature of that one instance of you is flipped on its head. Imagine all your ghostly selves are like calm pools of water, their surfaces smooth. When the oracle finds the match, it doesn't make a splash. Instead, it instantly inverts the gravity for that one single pool. The water doesn't fly everywhere. It simply hangs upside down, a perfect inverted reflection of what it was a moment before.
This is a change in its phase. All the other selves, the ones that didn't find a match, are still positive. They are all in agreement, all part of the same uniform state. But the one self that found the lost page has now been flipped to negative. It has been marked. It's like a single black sheep in a flock of infinite white ones. From the outside, nothing appears different. The library is still silent. The hum of information is just as loud. You, in your totality, are still in a superposition of being everywhere. But a critical event has occurred. A secret has been passed. The oracle has done its job. It has listened to the cacophony, found the one correct note, and without making a sound, it has tagged it.
You now have a library full of your ghostly selves, all looking identical, except for one. One of them is secretly, fundamentally different from the rest. It has a hidden sign on it, a sign that only you can understand. The problem now is that this difference is still just one tiny flip in an ocean of uniformity. It's still too subtle to detect. The next step is to take that quiet, secret whisper and amplify it until it's the only thing you can hear. Let's linger for a moment on what has just happened. You are still a vast, shimmering cloud of potential, with a ghostly copy of yourself attending to every book in the endless library. Before, each of these copies was identical. Think of each one as having a small amount of energy, a tiny, positive value. Let's call this value its amplitude. It's not much, just a flicker of existence, but it's there and it's the same for every book. This uniform, positive amplitude across all your selves means that if you were to stop right now and force a conclusion to look at just one book, your choice would be completely random. Every book has the same, tiny, equal chance of being the one you see. The lost page is just as likely to appear as a page of nonsense. This is where the oracle's whisper has changed everything. By finding the one perfect match, it performed a very specific, very strange action. It reached into the very essence of that one ghostly self, the one looking at the lost page, and it flipped its polarity. It took that small positive amplitude and turned it into an identical but negative amplitude. Imagine all your ghostly selves are tiny, glowing embers, each one radiating a faint, positive warmth. They all contribute to a general, lukewarm feeling that permeates the entire library. The oracle's whisper didn't make its chosen ember glow brighter. Instead, it instantly turned it into a tiny shard of ice. It now has a negative warmth. It is cold. It is pulling energy from its surroundings instead of giving it off. Its value, its amplitude, has been inverted. This is a profound change, but it's also incredibly subtle. You have one tiny point of coldness in a universe of lukewarm embers. The overwhelming majority of your selves are still positive. The change is so small, so localized, that it's seemingly insignificant. If you were to check the temperature at any random spot in the library, you'd almost certainly still feel the faint positive warmth of an incorrect answer. The negative flip is a secret sign, a change of quality rather than quantity. But here is where the real magic begins to stir. The state of your selves is not just a collection of individuals, it's a connected system. Everything affects everything else. Before the oracle acted, you could calculate the average amplitude of all your ghostly selves. It would be a very small but distinctly positive number. But now, something has changed. You have introduced a negative number into the population. Think of a massive list of numbers, all of them a 1. The average is, of course, 1. Now what happens if you flip just one of those numbers to a -1? If you have a trillion ones and just one negative one, the average is no longer exactly 1. It is now a tiny fraction less. Something like 0.999. The difference is infinitesimal, almost immeasurable. But it is real. The average has been dragged down by that single contrary value. This is what has happened to you. By flipping the amplitude of the correct answer to be negative, you have slightly lowered the average amplitude of your entire system. The collective consciousness you embody, spread across the library, now has a new center of balance. The overall hum of the library is just a fraction of a decibel quieter. The overall warmth is a fraction of a degree cooler. You, the entity experiencing this superposition, now have a new piece of information. You know this new average. It has become your new baseline, your new point of reference for what normal is. So the stage is set. You have accomplished two things. First, you've used the oracle to tag your target, making its amplitude negative. Second, this tagging has slightly lowered the average amplitude of the entire system. You now have a target that is significantly below the new average, and a vast sea of incorrect answers that are all slightly above this new average. The difference is still minuscule. The target is a tiny dip, and the rest are a vast plateau. But the difference exists. You have created a lever. Now you just need to find a fulcrum to amplify that tiny difference into something you can't possibly miss. So there you are, in that strange suspended state. You are a universe of possibilities, a cloud of ghostly selves. One of them, the important one, has been secretly marked with a negative sign, a flipped polarity. Because of this one change, the average energy, the average amplitude of your entire being has dipped just a tiny bit. You now have a new baseline, a new sea level for your existence. The vast ocean of incorrect answers is hovering just slightly above this new average, while your one correct answer is deep beneath it, a lone submarine in an ocean of tiny surface boats. This difference is your key. Now you are going to perform a single elegant maneuver. It's an instruction you give, not to oneself, but to the entire system at once. It's a command that says, everyone measure your distance from the average, and whatever that distance is, flip to the other side by that same amount. This is the amplification. This is how you make the whisper shout. Let's visualize it as a perfectly flat, infinitely large reflecting pool. The surface of the water is the new average amplitude you just calculated, that slightly lowered baseline. Every one of your ghostly selves has a position relative to this surface. The trillions of selves looking at the wrong books are all identical, floating just a hair's breadth above the water. They are barely breaking the surface, their positive amplitude just a little bit higher than the average. Then there is the one special self, the one the oracle marked. Its amplitude is negative, meaning it's not above the surface at all. It is deep below the water, its distance from the surface far greater than any of the others. With a single, unified thought, you execute the flip. Every self in the library simultaneously mirrors its position across the surface of that pool. Consider the vast number of selves looking at the wrong answers. They were all just a tiny bit above the surface. When they flip, they end up just a tiny bit below it. Their small positive amplitudes get slightly smaller. They were already quiet, and now they've become even quieter. They've all taken a small step back, sinking just under the surface, their collective light dimming. But then, look at what happens to the one marked self. The one that was looking at the lost page. It was deep, deep underwater, far below the average. When it measures its distance and flips to the other side, it doesn't just break the surface. It rockets out of it. It soars high into the air. Its position now is far above the average as it was once far below. Its small negative amplitude doesn't just become positive. It becomes a massive, overwhelmingly large positive amplitude. This is the magic trick. This is the heart of the algorithm. In one fluid motion, you have taken the defining characteristic of the wrong answers, their closeness to the average, and used it to diminish them. And you have taken the defining characteristic of the right answer, its distance from the average, and used it to amplify it astronomically. The transformation is breathtaking. Before, you were experiencing a uniform hum of information. Now one note sings out, clear and powerful above the rest. Before, you saw a field of faintly glowing embers. Now one of those embers has erupted into a brilliant column of light, a beacon that outshines everything else combined. The whisper of the oracle's flip has been amplified into a roar. The ghostly self looking at the lost page is no longer lost in the crowd. It is the star of the show. You are still in a superposition, still technically everywhere. But the balance has been completely upended. The probability is no longer evenly distributed. It has been gathered, focused, and heaped onto the one correct answer. If you were to stop now and collapse your state, to choose just one book to look at, your chances of picking the right one have just gone from 1 in a trillion to something dramatically, wonderfully better. You have turned the tables on the library. You have forced it to point towards its own secret. Let's pause here, in the quiet hum of the transformed library. Before you is a new reality. Where once there was a uniform sea of faint lights, now there is a single brilliant beacon surrounded by a vast darkness. You have successfully amplified the signal of the lost page. But how? It feels like magic, but it's a specific, elegant kind of magic. And it's worth understanding. The trick has two parts, the mean and the inversion. First, let's think about the mean. This is just another word for the average. Before you did anything, the average amplitude of all your ghostly selves was a tiny positive number. Every self had the same small positive value. Then the oracle performed its flip. It turned the amplitude of the one correct answer negative. By introducing that single negative value into a sea of positives, the overall average of the entire system was dragged down. Just a little. This new average became the pivot point, the fulcrum for the entire magic trick. It's the center of gravity for your entire distributed consciousness. It's the crucial piece of information that connects every single one of your ghostly selves to each other. Now for the second part, the inversion. This was the instruction you gave to your entire system to flip its position relative to that new average. Let's use a different picture. Imagine all your ghostly selves are standing on a vast, flat plane. This plane represents the average amplitude, the mean. It's ground zero. The countless selves looking at the wrong books are all standing on tiny 1-inch high platforms. They are just barely above the average, but the one self, the oracle marked, the one with the negative amplitude, isn't on a platform. It's at the bottom of a 100-foot deep hole. It is a massive outlier. The command to invert about the mean is a simple one. However far you are from the plane vertically, I want you to instantly move to the same distance on the opposite side. Think about what happens to the crowd. The selves standing on the 1-inch platforms find themselves suddenly standing in 1-inch deep puddles. They were just above the plane, and now they are just below it. For them, the change is negligible. Their power, their amplitude, has slightly decreased, but they were already insignificant. They have moved from being faintly visible to being faintly invisible. But then consider the one lonely self at the bottom of the 100-foot hole. It is a massive distance below the plane. When it follows the command, it measures that 100-foot distance and flips to the opposite side. In an instant, it is no longer in a hole. It is standing atop a 100-foot tall pillar, towering over everything else. This is the genius of the trick. It uses the very nature of the answers against them. The incorrect answers are numerous and uniform. Their strength is in their numbers, but this also means they are all clustered tightly around the average. Because they are so close to the average, the inversion has very little effect on them. The correct answer, however, is unique. The oracle's flip made it a lone outlier, far from the average. The inversion exploits this uniqueness, using its great distance from the average as a lever to fling it to an even greater height. The algorithm takes the thing that makes the answer different and makes that difference the most important thing in the universe. So the magic is really a two-step dance of logic. First, you create an outlier by flipping the sign of your target. Second, you use the new average of the whole system as a pivot to amplify that outlier dramatically. You didn't need to know where the answer was to do this. You just performed the same simple operation on everything at once, and the structure of the problem itself forced the correct answer to rise to the top. It's an act of incredible efficiency, turning the faceless crowd into a tool for finding the one individual you were looking for all along. The question that lingers now as you gaze at that brilliant pillar of light is whether its glow is strong enough. Is one performance of this trick enough to be certain you stand in awe of your own work? The single act of inversion has transformed the landscape of the library, elevating the lost page from an invisible whisper to a tangible presence. Its amplitude, its probability, is now huge. The beacon is bright, but the question echoes in the silent space. Is it as bright as it can possibly be? Is this the best you can do? The answer is no. The magic trick you performed is so nice, you can do it twice. Or more. The key is that the process isn't a single event, but a rhythm, a dance. This dance has two steps, repeated in perfect time. Step 1 is the oracle's whisper, the marking of the target by flipping its amplitude negative. Step 2 is the amplifier's shout, the inversion about the mean that catapults the marked target high above all the others. You have completed this two-step sequence once. Now, to make the beacon even brighter, you begin the dance again. From your new state, with one huge positive amplitude and trillions of tiny ones, you call upon the oracle again. It does its simple, single-minded job. It finds the target, which is now easy to spot with its giant amplitude, and flips it. That massive positive value becomes a massive negative value. The brilliant pillar of light plunges back down, becoming a hole of immense depth, far deeper than it was the first time. All the other tiny amplitudes are left untouched. Now, you calculate the average of this new state. With that single, hugely negative value in the system, the mean of the entire library plummets. The water level of the reflecting pool, your baseline for reality, drops dramatically. With this new, much lower average established, you perform step 2 of the dance again, the inversion. Everyone flips their position around this new, lower water level. The incorrect answers, which are now floating much higher above this sunken average, are flipped downwards, their amplitudes shrinking even further into irrelevance. But the correct answer, the one at the bottom of the impossibly deep hole, measures its colossal distance from the new average and catapults itself upwards. It doesn't just return to its previous height, it soars to a new, breathtaking peak. The beacon of light is now blindingly bright. Its amplitude is even closer to certainty. You can see the rhythm now. Each round of Mark and Amplify takes the amplitude of the correct answer and pumps it higher and higher. It's like pushing someone on a swing. The first push gets them off the ground. A second push, timed just right as they swing back, sends them higher. A third sends them higher still. You are pushing the probability of the lost page towards its absolute maximum. But this brings up a crucial point about any rhythm, about any swing. You can't just push forever. If you keep pushing the person on the swing, they will eventually reach the peak of their arc. If you try to give them one more push after that peak, you'll be pushing against their downward motion. You'll work against yourself, slowing them down, killing their momentum. The same is true here. This amplification dance has a point of perfection. If you repeat the Mark and Amplify steps too many times, you will overshoot the answer. The massive amplitude of the correct answer will begin to shrink, and the tiny amplitudes of the wrong answers will start to creep back up. The beacon will dim. You will begin to undo your own magnificent work. The true beauty of this quantum dance is that you don't have to guess. There is a perfect, calculable number of repetitions. The number of steps in the rhythm is determined by the size of the library. If there are n books in total, the perfect number of repetitions is mathematically linked to the square root of n. You don't need to check all n books one by one. You just need to perform this dance for a much smaller number of steps to get as close to a certain answer as possible. So you perform the calculation. You know the size of the library, so you know the perfect rhythm. You perform the two-step dance. The oracles whisper and the amplifiers shout, exactly that many times. With each repetition, the beacon of the lost page grows brighter, more intense, more focused. You stop the dance at the moment of its absolute peak. When its glow fills your entire perception, the system is now primed. The probability is maxed out. All that's left to do is open your eyes and look. The dance is over. You have followed the perfect rhythm, the precise number of steps calculated from the library's immense size. You performed the oracle's whisper, and the amplifiers shout again and again, each cycle making the beacon of the lost page more brilliant, more singular, more real. The system is now at its peak. The amplitude of the correct answer is as high as it can possibly get, a sun of probability in a universe of dark, forgotten possibilities. You are still in a superposition, still a ghost in every aisle, but the state is profoundly unbalanced. Your potential is now pooled almost entirely in one location. The time for potential is over. The time for reality has come. This final step is the simplest of all. It is the act of looking. It is the decision to stop being a wave and to become a particle. Once more, you let go of the feeling of being everywhere, of experiencing the hum of every book. You release your hold on the infinite and ask for the finite. You are collapsing the story from its countless drafts down to a single final version. This is the measurement. The sensation is like waking from a vast and complicated dream. The feeling of your consciousness being stretched thin across the cosmos begins to recede. The trillions of ghostly selves, including the one blazing beacon and the countless dim embers, all flicker and dissolve. They are not destroyed. They are resolved. Their potential flows back into you, like a tide returning to the sea. The overwhelming noise of the library's infinite information fades to a perfect, clear silence. The fractured, all-encompassing perspective you held melts away, and your vision coalesces into a single point of view. For a moment, there is nothing. Just the quiet, gray mist of the library. Then, the mist clears. You are no longer everywhere. You are somewhere. You are standing on your own 2 feet, solid and whole. The air is still and cool on your skin. You look down at your hands, and they are opaque, real. You are in an aisle flanked by 2 endless shelves of identical black books. But you are not lost. Your gaze is drawn, not by a light, but by a deep sense of certainty, to a single volume on the shelf before you. The system did not give you a map to the book. The collapse of the system placed you in front of it. The point of highest probability became your physical location. All the potential you so carefully cultivated has crystallized into this one specific reality.
You reach out. Your hand is steady. Your fingers touch the cool leather of the spine. There are no trumpets, no fanfare, just the quiet, satisfying weight of the book as you pull it from the shelf. It feels no different from any other book in this library, but you know it is the one. You open the cover. The pages are filled with the familiar mix of order and chaos that fills this place. You turn them one by one, feeling their smooth, crisp texture, and then you see it. There, printed on the page in clear, unmistakable type, is the secret you were looking for. The map, the cure, the password, the lost page. It is exactly as you knew it would be. The search is over. You didn't find the needle in the haystack by sorting through every piece of straw. You stood back, asked the haystack a question, listened for a whisper, and turned that whisper into a shout, so loud that the needle was compelled to leap out and land right at your feet. The quantum magic has faded, leaving behind a single concrete classical answer. You have the book. You have the page. You have the solution. You are standing in the quiet aisle, holding the book. The solution is in your hands. The magical, all-encompassing quantum state has vanished, leaving you with this single solid piece of reality. The story of your search is complete, but the meaning of it is just beginning to dawn on you. This library, this search, this strange and powerful dance. It wasn't just a fantasy,
It was a parable for one of the most fundamental challenges in the world of information. Let's pull back the curtain. The endless library of everything is not a place of wood and paper. It is any massive, unstructured collection of data. It's a database. Think of the entire human genome, a sprawling list of 3 billion base pairs. Think of every possible key that could unlock an encrypted message. Think of every possible move in a fantastically complex game of chess or Go. The identical black books are the individual entries in that database, the possible keys, the potential solutions, and the lost page. That's the one thing you're looking for, the specific gene mutation causing a disease, the one correct key that decrypts the file, the optimal solution to a logistical problem. Your first impulse in the library, the one that led to such despair, was to check each book one by one. This is the classical approach. It's how a regular computer, a classical one, has to solve this kind of problem. It checks item 1. Is this it? No. It checks item 2. Is this it? No. And so on. If your library has 1 million books, in the worst case, the computer will have to perform 1 million checks to find the page. If it has 1 trillion books, it could take 1 trillion checks. This is a linear search, and as you saw, for truly large libraries, it's a hopeless task.
Now, think about your quantum journey. You didn't check the books one by one. You performed a dance, a rhythm of marking and amplifying. The most important part of that story was the revelation that the number of dance steps you needed was not related to the total number of books, n, but to the square root of n. This is the secret that changes everything.
Let's put that in perspective. If the library has 1 million books, n the 1,000,000, the classical method could take up to 1 million steps. Your quantum method, the Grover's dance, would take roughly the square root of that number, about 1,000 steps, to get the answer with extremely high probability. 1,000 steps instead of 1 million. That is a staggering improvement. Now let's scale it up to the size of a truly cosmic library. 1 trillion books, n the 1,000,000,000. The classical computer is defeated before it begins. It might have to run for centuries, but the quantum approach, it would take roughly the square root of 1 trillion steps. That's 1 million steps. The task is transformed from a cosmological impossibility into something that is computationally feasible. It's the difference between science fiction and a solvable engineering problem. This is why finding that needle in a haystack just got easier. Grover's algorithm provides a quadratic speedup for search problems. It doesn't give you the answer in a single step, but it dramatically reduces the number of steps required. This has profound implications. It means that problems that were once considered permanently out of reach because of the sheer time it would take to brute force a search are now potentially on the table. This applies to breaking certain kinds of codes, to searching vast databases for specific patterns, and to solving complex optimization problems where you have to find the one best solution among a sea of trillions of merely good ones. It doesn't solve all problems. Many tasks don't have this search-like structure. But for the vast category of problems that do, this new method represents a fundamental shift in power. You didn't just find a page in a book. You discovered a new way to read, a new way to navigate the endless labyrinths of information that define our modern world. You learned that by embracing the strange rules of the quantum realm, you can find shortcuts through reality that classic intuition would tell you are impossible. You turn away from the shelf, the book with the lost page held securely in your hand. As you walk, the endless aisles of the great library seem to hum with a newfound silence. Your journey here is over. The impossible problem has been solved. But as you leave the gray, misty space and step back into the familiar world, you realize that you are not leaving empty-handed. You have the solution you sought, yes, but you are also taking something else with you. You are taking the echo of the process itself. This is the Grover's echo. It's the lingering resonance of a completely new way of thinking. Before, a search was a physical act of labor. It was walking down aisles, pulling down books, turning pages. It was a philosophy of elimination, of brute force, of slogging through a list of possibilities one by one, until you stumbled upon the right one. That was the only way you knew. The echo that now follows you is the memory of a different philosophy. It's the memory of letting go, of dissolving your single perspective into a wave of pure potential, touching every possibility at once. It's the memory of the oracle's whisper, a quiet question asked not of a single book, but of the entire library simultaneously, and the subtle internal flip of the one instance that knew the answer. It's the memory of the amplifier, that beautiful wave-like inversion that didn't blast the answer with a spotlight, but simply changed the geometry of the entire system so that the answer had no choice but to rise to the top. It's the memory of a search conducted not by traveling to an answer, but by calling the answer to you. This new philosophy is one of elegance over effort. It understands that in the strange, interconnected world of quantum mechanics, you don't have to shout to be heard. A whisper, amplified by the consensus of the whole system, can become the loudest thing in the universe. It proves that you can learn something about a single, specific item by manipulating the average of the entire collection. It's a way of thinking that uses the very fabric of probability as its tool, gently shaping it and guiding it until it crystallizes around the solution. The echo reminds you that the power of this method came from its rhythm, its precisely timed dance. Too few steps, and the beacon was too dim to see. Too many steps, and you overshot the mark, the beautiful signal fading back into the noise. It required a delicate touch, an understanding of the system as a whole. It was less like a search, and more like tuning a cosmic instrument, adjusting the tension until one string, the right string, resonates with perfect clarity. As you settle back into the normal flow of time, the world seems the same, but your understanding of it is forever changed. The echo of the library remains in your mind. You know now that for certain kinds of impossible problems there is a hidden path. A path that doesn't involve a long, arduous march through every wrong answer, but a quiet, clever manipulation of the very idea of an answer itself. You know that to find a single needle in a haystack of cosmic size, the solution is not to start searching through the straw. The solution is to learn the haystack's secret language and ask it, very politely, to show you the way. The search is over, but the echo, that new way of seeing, will last forever.